Joining me now is Ann Wilkinson. She is the VP of Investor Relations for Mineros. Thanks for coming in. Good to see you.
Thanks for inviting me to join you.
Now, this company has been around for 50 years plus, but it's only been public since 2021. Am I correct in that?
That's
right.
Correct.
And yes. so there would be a fair amount of investors who may not be familiar with the story. So could you give us a brief overview of the company's producing assets in Nicaragua and Colombia?
Absolutely. So Mineros is an interesting story in that it's actually been public in the Colombian markets for 50 years. And its principal and first asset was the Nachi alluvial asset in Colombia, in Antioquia, just outside of El Bagre, about 190 kilometers north of Medellin. Nachi is an alluvial asset, so it's one of these ancient alluvial plains where you just get free gold washing out of the Andes. And there's been mining there for about 100 years. About 9.2 million ounces have come out of the deposit. In our hands for the last 50 years, we've extracted more than 3 million ounces. We just published a new technical report, and the technical report shows about 12 years mine life, and in the proven and probable reserve category, we have 1.3 million ounces, almost 1.4, and in the measured and indicated category, we have just over 1 million ounces of gold. Turning to Nicaragua, which we bought in 2013, it is 2 underground mines, and we toll mill for artisanal miners. So just a bit of history. Nicaragua had a revolution. They nationalized all the mines. The mines went broke. The government said, okay, what do we do now? So what they did is they privatized them again, but embedded in the Constitution the right for artisanal miners to work on 1% of private property. So a lot of mining companies, international mining companies, saw that as a problem. We see that as an opportunity. So over the last 12 years, we've built trust and embedded processes in our processing system so that the artisanal miners can embed fiscals or auditors so that they can oversee our sampling process. The sampling process is completely hands off, and we have a governing body that has representatives from the local government, from artisanal miners, and from us. If you're an artisanal miner working with us under the Bonanza model at HEMCO, you have to be registered with the local government. We will work with the artisanal miners and indicate. So our geologists are all over our land package, which is quite substantial. It's about 165,000 hectares. So if we find something that's narrow vein, really near surface, that won't lend itself well to big mechanized mining methods, we'll tell the artisanal miners about it, and they'll go and mine it. And then the artisanal miners, wherever they're mining, they let us know, and so we're cross-checking that against our understanding of the geology, because they may be exploiting something near surface that may have a feeder system further underground that we may want to go and look at.
Right.
So it's a really, really strong business model. The local government gets more tax revenues. We get more material to mill and to sell. The artisanal miners get 40 to 45% of spot, and we have an accident insurance plan for them that we've developed with the government. So we now have about 4,700 of our 6,000 artisanal miners who are insured, and we also train them up on safer mining practices and that sort of thing. So fascinating stuff, right?
Like it is, yeah.
Yeah.
And a very unique model.
100%.
On both counts.
Yeah.
So record revenue for the company in 2024 as we look back a little bit before we look forward. Record profit as well.
Yeah.
So what were some of the highlights from 24, and what can investors expect in 25?
So it's really important to set the stage. As you discussed, we 100% had record revenues, record profitability, but it was done at $23.87 on average gold price. So the price of gold is now close to $1,000 higher. Mm-hmm. We produced about 213,000 ounces of gold. We expect to produce somewhere close to that in this coming year, so between 203 and 225,000 ounces of gold. We do expect our costs to be a little bit higher in at Nichi, given the fact that we assumed a continuing strong peso in our budget assumptions. Given the uncertainty globally and given some of the actions coming out of the U.S. administration, the Colombian peso has been weaker than we expected, than we budgeted, and so that we may see the benefits of that, but we did budget for a relatively strong peso. And then in Nicaragua, we are 100% mindful that when you pay your artisanal mining partners 40 to 45% of spot, as the high and rising gold prices will involve higher cash costs, because their percentage, if gold's at $2,000 an ounce, we pay them $800 an ounce, and we retain the other 12. If gold's at $3,000 an ounce, they get $1,200 an ounce, we get $1,800. So as our costs rise, our revenues rise, and our profitability rises. So it's important to understand that.
Right.
$87 million in profits for the year, based on that 2387. Really important to note. So yesterday's close was $617 million market cap at $2.06 Canadian. All of the, when I talk about financials, I always talk in US dollars. We present our financials in US dollars. So if you convert our market cap to US dollars, that's $445 million, give or take. And so we're trading at 5 times net free cash flow, or net profitability. And we're trading, our trailing earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation and amortization, so EBITDA, is $210 million at that 2387. So we're trading just over 2 times EBITDA. This is a deeply undervalued company.
Yeah, right. And we'll circle back to that towards the end, actually, and what the market's impression is, and how you're trying to get some awareness for the company. Now, back to Nichi. The gold that's produced there, you consider a green gold, and part of that is because of the hydroelectric power that you use. So can you explain why why that's a unique operation?
So I touched on it earlier. It's an ancient alluvial plain, and we've got the reserves identified. So what happens is we create a closed pond beside the river, and in that closed pond we'll come in and we'll inventory the flora, and we'll take thousands of samples of tree species and plant species, and we'll put them in nurseries. And then we take the trees down, we get the animals to move along. Any animals that don't move along on their own, we'll scoop them up and we'll put them in our wildlife preserve for our vets to examine, make sure they're healthy. If they're not healthy, then we get them healthy, and then we'll re-release them. So trees come down, about 10 meters of overburden comes off, and then we mine the next 10 to 30 meters. So think of a series of mini open pits. And it's just free milling gold. So we just add water and gravity, and we just shake the gold out of this. And then after we've taken the gold out of these black enriched sands, we recontour the land, and we either create farmlands, we create wetlands, which can help with the historical flooding of the Nichi River. So sometimes we leave it in better shape than it is. And I just had an investor to our site in January, and we were standing on a hill, and he asked a very important question. He goes, so about how long does it take when you rehabilitate behind yourselves? And we actually took to him place, and our environmental hosts, who were part of the team showing him the operation, said this is about 2 years. So because you're close to the equator in a very humid area, the plant and animal species reestablish themselves fairly quickly. So free milling gold, water, gravity, and hydroelectric facilities, plus a rehab program that's really strong, and strong social license. We think that this is some of the greenest gold out there. Wow,
very cool. So on the shareholder base side, you have a new majority shareholder, Sun Valley Investments. I'm assuming they're American, and they're at 57% of the shares now. So what's the significance of having that group as the majority shareholder?
So Sun Valley, so it's important to distinguish. There is a Sun Valley that's out of Utah. This is not that Sun Valley. This Sun Valley is headquartered in Zug, Switzerland. The principal is a gentleman named Vikram Sodhi, a philanthropist and private investor. They're Their reason for being is they've got a strategic vision to, through organic acquisitions and through targeted acquisitions, build a portfolio of mines that and assets that expand mining on an environmentally and sustainable fashion. And so their team, if you take a look at their website, their team is constituted of people with deep mining backgrounds, people like Michael Doyle, who's a technical expert. Daniel Anao has been in the mining space for a long, long time, and then a team of geologists to help, geologists and financial people to assess the appropriateness of assets. So when I got a look at their background as our new investor, I thought, I can't imagine a better alignment or a more perfect alignment, because this is a 50-year-old company who has been focused on environmental and sustainable mining practices. And so to be fully aligned with our major shareholder like that is I think it's a real joy. So,
yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
It just does seem like a perfect fit because they have that ESG mandate, and your company fits the bill. And then also, I had an interim CEO for a while, and now a new CEO has been appointed, David Ladagno. What's his background? What does he bring to the table?
So it was a bit of a funny thing. So Andres Restrepo has been the CEO of the company for about 10 years, and he was ready to retire. And so he was stepping down, and they identified David, who is a mining engineer and has an MBA. He comes out of the likes of Kirkland Lake Gold, Anglo Gold, Ashanti, and Barrick. He's got a deep technical understanding of mining, and I think he's a real benefit to our group. What was interesting is David was to take over on the 8th of April, and under Colombian law, a executive can't sit on the board of directors. So what happened was we had Andres step down on the 1st. We had Alan, our CFO, step in as the interim for 8 days, and then we had David step up on the 8th as was planned.
I see.
So the interesting thing is, and that was one of the lovely surprises that we got at the AGM, or that I got because I hadn't been aware of it ahead of time, is that there was a slate of directors proposed at the AGM that included retaining the talent and institutional memory of Andres Restrepo amongst a couple of other new directors. Mm-hmm. So I am thrilled that Andres will stay with us. We'll have the benefits of his institutional memory. David will have that kind of, safety net for the next little while as he steps into that operational role. So pretty excited about that.
So the company is trying to build awareness of itself in North America. This is part of that. And you say that the stock is deeply undervalued. So how is that effort going in terms of making the market aware of Mineros and the story? And how are you going about it? And what's the feedback you get? What's the overall impression you think the market has of the company right now?
So I first became aware of the company in December 2023 as they were conducting a search for an investor relations professional, and I'd never heard of them. And I couldn't understand how there was a 50-year-old company that I had not heard of that was producing more or less 200,000 or 230,000 ounces of gold. Mm-hmm. And so what I did is I did my research, interviewed with the guys, and I was impertinent enough to say during my interview process, I don't know whether nobody knows who you are or they do and there's a problem with the company. Well, it turned out it was 100% in the first category, because just as I was leaving my former employer, I conducted a mini investor perception audit with some really well-known names in the gold space, both on the sell side and the buy side, and indicated I was leaving a base metal producer or a base metal developer to go to a gold producer that was a dividend payer, and a dividend payer for 4 decades. Mm-hmm. And I tried to get these people who know the gold space really well to guess the name, and none of them could. Really? So that makes my job pretty simple. First is to raise brand awareness, and I do so through, working with Red Cloud amongst others. And so the 2024 and 2025 focus was on getting out to conferences and getting non-deal roadshows done so that we can raise that awareness in the marketplace. As we measure the results and our effects of being out there and getting brand awareness, so we will modify how we approach the marketplace, but right now we've had a triple in the stock price since I first took a look at the name. So I first took a look at the name at 65 cents.
That was all you're doing.
Yeah, I don't think so. But as I said very gently and a little bit tongue-in-cheek, the gold price has certainly helped. But if the name was unknown, investors wouldn't have been reaching for that name without this work that we've done. And I have to thank, Andres and I had a really special moment at the AGM. He said, thank you, because, it's been fun. You've worked us really hard because you've had us out more than we had ever marketed before in our lives, and we really appreciate your efforts on this front.
So I don't feel so badly that I hadn't heard of Mineros up until recently.
I've got gold analysts who've been in the space for 20 years who hadn't heard of the name before I arrived. So
well, that's what makes it really exciting, that people are discovering it now. The stock's doing well. So thank you very much, Anne, for shedding light on Mineros. Very interesting story.
Well, thank you for having me here, and take care.
All right, good stuff. And Wilkinson, VP of Investor Relations at Mineros.